Imagine what John Lennon sang to us, no problems, only solutions. And let's not call these problems, let's call these challenges for the subject teachers. There are a few challenges here. Well, one is the language, okay? What happens if they don't have the language level to teach the subject? In the Netherlands, and Rosie will correct me if I'm wrong here, but it used to be in the Netherlands, and I think it still is, that the subject teacher, when they were teaching in what the Dutch call twinned language learning, all right, I'm not sure if I translated that well, but it's twinning the content. They call it twinning as in twins, twinning the content and the target language. Well, the subject teacher needed to have a Cambridge Advanced level, take the Cambridge Advanced test. That's one thing. Another problem with language, and I remember I was in Romania at RATE. I saw some people from Romania over there. Maybe you were there. There was a lady from, I believe, Bulgaria who was talking about CLIL in her country and saying that one of the problems was some of the students had better English than their teachers. And that can be a problem like that. A solution, of course, would be to use those good English students to help out the teacher and the others. Techniques is another problem for subject teachers. Now, we'll look at this in just a minute. Techniques meaning that, as language teacher, we have all these techniques of eliciting, scaffolding, pair work, group work, that maybe subject teachers teaching geography, teaching mathematics, maybe they're not used to doing things like that. So techniques can be a challenge. Assessment. What are we assessing? Are we going to assess the language, or are we going to assess the subject content? This can be done in different ways. It can be done, for example, that every once in a while, that the language teacher, the English teacher, looks at something that was done, a report, a project, or something like that was done by the students focusing on the content, and looks at the language and grades, assesses the language, if you will. All right? Materials. Materials are a problem, can be a problem. Now, there are a lot of books from educational publishers that are written for teaching subjects at all levels like that. But what happens if the subject content in the book doesn't match your national curriculum? My wife is a primary school teacher and not a CLIL teacher, although she does teach English as well as all the other subjects. That's the way it is in France. In your country, I'm not sure. But anyhow, excuse me. They don't teach, she doesn't teach long division to her 8-year-olds. That doesn't happen until the following year. So what happens if you get some material and all of a sudden they're asked to do, in this case, mathematics long division, but in your national curriculum, your school curriculum, that doesn't come into later down the line. So that's a challenge. I hope you don't have to be in the situation. I was at a summer school in Serbia, last summer in fact, and 2 young primary teachers came up to me and said, here's what our headmaster has convinced us to do, is to take the national textbook in math and in science and translate it from Serbian, translate it into English. My goodness, they spent their whole summer trying to do that. Anyhow, materials can be. And then also, as I already mentioned, the national curriculum might be different at different ages. And also exams. In the exam, what are we going to assess? We've been learning geography, we've been learning history or whatever through the target language, but the national exam is actually in our national language testing the subject content. Okay? Like that. So some of the challenges there. Well, one thing we can do, this is from a book by Rosie Tanner, who's one of our attendees, I think we're calling him, and Liz Dale. And it's a beautiful book, Rosie. And in it, this is just one page. It's a lot of photocopyable things for subject teachers and language teachers. This is called a Know, Want, Learn grid to get them thinking before what they know about the subject, what they want to learn about the subject, and afterward reflecting on what they did learn, all right? And in this, almost every one of the activities has a little box. I hope you can see that. It's a small box. and it's a tip for cross-curricular cooperation between subject and language teachers. In other words, how the language teacher and the subject teacher can ride their bicycle built for two.